have such sights to show you.
We're Poppin the Scary horror podcast. I'm your host Coale, and with me as always, I have my good friend and co-host Aaron.
Pop! Did I scare you?
Yeah, immeasurably.
Poppin the Scary.
Yeah, I'm scared.
I don't know.
Yeah, I show's over. I'm too scared to continue on. I can't.
Well, that was just a preview of all the scares we're about to experience when we watch this movie.
Yeah, what movie we watching?
I don't know. Are we watching? Are we going back to Camp Crystal Lake?
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool.
We're watching the 5th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise, which so far on this podcast, overall, for you, Aaron, I would say it's been above average.
Yeah,
I had to say, there's only been one kind of sinker, being 2 that you're like, I did not enjoy that film, but the other ones, definitely some good ups, some mess, and everything else. But out of curiosity, because I've seen all the Friday the 13th installments and everything, so from your side of the franchise, how do you feel about this film being advertised as a new beginning and everything else, since spoiler alert for part 4 and everything else, but Jason is dead.
Right. I mean, yeah, they can't ditch Jason, right? I ask as we've watched multiple movies where I've seen Jason not in the form I thought he was going to be in. So maybe they do ditch Jason. I don't know. I really don't have expectations with this franchise anymore. I would assume it's some new Jason, perhaps I don't know, some Jason 2.0, some other person, maybe a camper becomes Jason, or maybe they just tell a different story that's really similar to it. I don't know. Or maybe they just start over. Maybe they just tell the first story again. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a total fair assessment. Is there any preconceived notions, concerns, or anything else going into this film, or is it just pretty much just like, okay, just throw it out there?
I feel like, and I could be totally off on this, I feel like I've seen some sort of internet buzz about versions of Jason that people don't like. Maybe this is one of them. I don't know. But yeah, new beginnings, who knows? Maybe it's, maybe it's going to be a great new beginning. Or maybe it'll be mid as hell. But I don't expect it to be bad. That would surprise me.
Yeah, because, like, the only one you would say so far that you would view as somewhat bad is the second one. Even though there were glimmers of stuff, you're like, I did like this. It's too bad that this other stuff sucked.
None of them, I don't think, really blew me out of the water. Besides, I did enjoy the first one a good bit. But, yeah, I could... This franchise for me has been hit or miss in the kills department sometimes. Like 2 was like a lot of boring kills for me, with the exception of the wheelchair kill.
Yes, that was definitely, that's probably one of the best kills in the franchise.
But there's also been some excellent kills like that throughout the series. So I know it's a bit of a toss up. Yeah, I don't expect it to be a super stinker, but at the same time, getting 5 installments deep into a horror franchise, it could just totally suck. I don't know.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, this film came out in 1985, so these films were coming out on the yearly, basically.
They're churning them out.
Yeah, just like the Saw franchise. Like, I remember whenever, obviously growing up, we saw those films being released yearly by year for like 7 installments, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, I won't give too much away, but it was one of those things that I was kind of on the same perspective as you were first time watching it, is just kind of like, oh, Jason's dead. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're just going to kill the biggest horror icon they made and everything else, just like that.
The face of the franchise.
Yes, it's just
or
like,
the lack of face.
Yes, that's exactly it. So whenever I went into this, I had heard certain things about this film and everything else, which I am not going to spoil before watching this film. But needless to say, I feel like with this film, there's definitely going to be some points we'll talk about.
Okay, all right.
You know, which doesn't really say much because that's what we literally do,
That
is
is
talk
the
about
podcast.
points. Yes,
Yep.
that is literally the podcast. So I didn't help out with that statement at all. So let's buckle up and head over to Camp Crystal Lake to see what this new beginning's all about.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate? Chocolate? Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
And we are back from experiencing Friday the 13th, A New Beginning.
Yeah.
And Aaron, how is this new beginning for you?
I like this. You know, everybody deserves a new beginning. And I liked Spooky Camp 5, Return of a New Boy, or whatever the movie was called.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a better title than anything ever and everything. But yeah, I noticed while we were watching it and stuff, I've seen this film. I want to say this is like my third or fourth time seeing this film and everything.
Is it
and
one of your faves, or you just been watching it a bunch?
I mean, I've watched the whole series multiple times. I mean, Friday the 13th is arguably my favorite franchise. Like, no matter, well, I don't know about that one. There's definitely one installment in the series where I'm like, fuck this. But that's it's not this film. Just to get that spoiler out of the way, it's not this film. But yeah, no, I've just seen it quite a bit. And out of the times I've seen it with like different people I watched it with and everything else, this probably had the biggest laugh reaction and everything.
This was a lot funnier of a movie than I thought it was going to be going in. Like, the Friday the 13th franchise so far has a specific, like, brand of comedy. It's got some little goofs and gaffes. I don't think it ever takes itself, like, too seriously, which I think is a benefit because it's, like, lower budget horror slasher kind of stuff. But this one in particular had some good bits, I think.
I think in terms of the Friday the 13th series, this one for me, I'm trying to think of the correct words to describe it. Comparatively to a lot of the goofs and gaffes that have occurred, this one just jumped the shark and just being like, we are going to be absolutely ridiculous.
Very much so. Some of it was probably a little over the top. I'm thinking of a couple characters in particular, like the stupid child of Ethel or whatever that guy that rides around on his motorcycle, just like a bug.
Oh god, yeah.
But for the most part, I think like they're really some well timed comedy. I mean, like it's not, nobody in this film's like an amazing A-list actor or anything, I don't think. But for what they were working with, I mean, there was some genuine, like, that was a funny bit that they put in kind of moments.
Yeah. My experience with this film has had lots of ups and downs whenever it comes to experiencing it, and I wanted to keep it on the minimal and everything else. The first time I watched it, I was like, what the hell is this?
So much just bizarre
just
shit.
What the hell is this and everything else. And you know, I was already kind of like, okay, Jason's, you know, supposedly not in this one and everything else. How am I gonna go watch it? And some of the stuff that happens that's instigated and like, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty because that'll be later, but general overlay, I've had a lot of ups and downs experiencing this one. The first time I watched it, I'm like, this is dumb. This is stupid. I don't like this and everything. Yeah. And then the more times I've watched it, the more I've come to appreciate certain aspects of it, but also at the same point be reminded of why I this isn't a top contender in the entries for me personally. Fair and everything enough. Else like that, but that'll just come down later to discussion. But needless to say, I'm definitely glad you derived more joy out of it than what I was expecting, because
we might have a bit of a split opinion on this, because I enjoyed this one quite a bit for what it was.
And you know, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, out of the times I've seen it, this time I probably enjoyed the most and everything. It's one of those weird films that first time I just kind of wrote it off as like, yeah, this is just stupid with some of the decisions they made filmmaking wise. And
no, I agree that it's stupid. It is stupid.
Yes, yeah, but
I think it's fun stupid.
Yes, yeah, which is good. It's good and everything else like that. It'll be interesting to dive into this one, because in all honesty, I was like, I mean, I love the Friday the 13th franchise, and like I said, without spoiling too much, this is not my least favorite entry in the franchise. It's definitely lower on the totem pole, as it were, whenever it comes to ranking. But yeah, I was definitely worried you were going to have sort of like a Saw 3 thing where like, the fuck are we doing here, man?
What are
Just
we doing?
yeah, like what are we doing and everything. So I'm glad that you derived a lot of joy and you're kind of excited to kind of dive in more into the itty bitty bits and everything else like that. So I'll go ahead and give a summary of the premise and everything else like that. So yeah, the plot. So believe it or not, this is one film. Again, there's been usually whenever it comes to the entries of the film, there's very loose connection and everything else like that. From 1 to 2, you kind of had that loose connection, but afterwards it was like, yeah, forget about it and everything else. This one has a bit of a tighter connection. So, spoilers for everything before Friday the 13th Part 5. I again always just have to say that just in case, because we're gonna have to spoil it. But basically, it follows after the events of Part 4, where we see a young Tommy Jarvis having a vision of Jason coming back to life and finding out that it's all a dream. And instead, Tommy Jarvis is on his way to kind of a mental health facility program, and it's kind of like an alternative way of just, you know, like a mental institution,
kind of like an outpatient kind of deal where like he like was from a mental institution and now he's at this like camp to rehabilitate and like get him back in society.
Yeah, and during his time there and everything else, things get a little out of control.
Oh, yeah,
a little out of control.
Well, imagine
and
some
so,
wacky stuff goes down at the camp.
And while Tommy is dealing with his own trauma, he's also having to deal with the current events that are unfolding with a bunch of rambunctious teenagers in the middle of the woods. You know the formula. You know what's up.
You know
and
what they get up to.
just the fact that potentially Jason might not actually be dead and everything. I know.
Yes.
So, plot-wise, how did you feel like seeing that, you know, Tommy Jarvis from the previous film we're now following as more of an older adult and everything else, kind of like young or older teen?
I actually thought it was a little bit of a refreshing change of pace, because they could have easily just been like, new campers, new camp, there's no reason for them to be here except for they love camping, and really ignore the warnings for the 5th time, I guess.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I like the continuity. I like some of the motivation. It gives some of the care, like, and also it really explains a lot of the weird, wacky behavior that these campers do, because they're all mentally ill. So it really gives a convenient write-off for some of the classic Friday the 13th stuff. But I also think I enjoy the setup for what it is, because they kind of introduce a variety of conflicts with that. Not only do you have a bunch of mentally ill campers that are poorly supervised in one place, already a good setup for some horror to happen, but then you have the neighbors that hate that there's a bunch of mentally ill campers next to them, and they are more mentally ill than the campers are, because they live in the woods by the lake, I guess.
I think that says a lot about society.
So you have some neat motive, and then of course you have the PTSD, and I think how the plot sort of unfolds is, people start dying, as you might imagine in a horror film, but there's kind of a sort of underlying mystery of like, well, who's doing the killing then if Jason's not back, or is he? So.
Yeah, it was definitely, whenever I watched it and everything else, because up to this point, I believe every installment has had a group of teenagers going to a campsite of sorts. Part 4 did shake it up by having the Jarvis family who lives in the woods be there and everything else, but the other parts is sort of like individuals just renting, cabins and everything else. So this is the first time where it's like, no, this is an actual like institution placed here in order to help find a healthier alternative towards rehabilitating people to be, dealing with their trauma and everything else like that. So I did enjoy that aspect. Later narrative choices that occur, that's where I start to throw a little bit more of problems.
I do think the quality of the film overall goes down over time.
Yes, for sure. Because I did notice that the laughs and gaffes that were happening stopped about, let's be generous, 2/3 of the way through the film,
Yeah.
and it's just pretty quiet. And even though there is still some interesting things that occur, it's just
they
kind
quit
of
being as funny.
yes. It's like, okay, like we jumped the shark.
It was like they had to wrap up the film, and they were like, "Well, shit, let's just let's get this going."
Yeah, but that's obviously going to be more spoiler territory. But at least initial premise wise, I would agree with Aaron. It is definitely a refreshing pace, and it is kind of interesting to kind of have a returning character be sort of the main lead, because that's the thing about Tommy. Like, you would argue he's the main character,
For sure.
but during some point of the film it starts to shift focus away from him to of course focus on other campers, because you got to see what those crazy teens are up to, or some of the other individuals running the facility and everything else like that. So we've talked a little bit about Tommy Jarvis and everything else like that, so why don't we go ahead and discuss more about Tommy, played by John Shepard. How do you think he was as a character? Because it's definitely more different than Corey Feldman's portrayal or whatever, just being like that kind of, yes, the little kid, excited, likes weird mask and everything else, to a traumatized older human being and everything.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit of a challenging performance ahead of him, in the fact that he doesn't talk much. That's like his defining characteristic, and yet he's like the lead character. But he did a good job of being brooding and insanely muscular for some reason, I guess.
Dude, he was jacked, which I know you could be like, well, he's always afraid of Jason coming after him, so he'll get jacked, but I don't know. I think it's just the fact of, like, if he has to be seen without his shirt off or whatever, they gotta make him muscular.
Yeah, I mean, there were quite a few ripped dudes. A lot of beautiful people in this film, really, with minimal clothing on, which I guess is the horror brand. But no, I think he did an all right job. I won't knock him for the job. I think I don't know. I wouldn't give him an Oscar for the performance, but he did all right.
I would agree with you in the fact that I think he probably had the most difficult role to fulfill and everything else like that, because they, you know how they sometimes have, like, you know, oh yeah, I'm like really traumatized, but you can't tell at all. Like, you could tell Tommy is very messed up and everything with how quiet he is and just the expressions and just overall anguish he has to inflict. So I give him major kudos for pulling off a very difficult role and everything else. But I'm with you, Aaron, the fact that I'm like I don't blame this so much on the actor as I do the writing, especially, that they're just like, they are not well adept on tackling a situation like this, but they do their damnedest and get the job done and everything, where you get the point across. And I did believe that, you know, Tommy was under very much duress.
Right.
Especially kind of with the events that popped up, that it would affect him the way it does and everything else like that. There is some... I do have to discuss about some of his traits that I do love whenever he's antagonized, that he just becomes the ultimate goddamn warrior.
He just beats the shit out of whoever.
Like, it's not even just like violent, it's like pure just
Karate Kid.
Yes, absolutely. Fucking like there's so many moments, especially something that happens later at the trailer park. That's all I'll say. Where I was like, oh my god, this has became a fucking fighting game.
Yeah, there's some like choreography, man. Like, usually I'm not used to, like, I mean, a lot of these movies, especially with kills and stuff, it's just like you get killed by a knife or whatever sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
And man, they must have practiced that shit. He was doing some kung fu moves.
Yeah, he was. So overall, I give major kudos towards John Shepard pulling off this role and everything. I genuinely feel like he did the best job he possibly could have, given the quality of the script. Because let's be honest or whatever, even though this was an interesting idea about focusing on a person with trauma, because I know in part 3 they tried to do the same with the lead actress, kind of like, oh man, I got scared by Jason, but nothing happened. And
Mm-hmm.
like they tried to make that a thing, but I felt like it kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, I definitely believe there was more to it, but again, this would not be like my example go-to of like, oh man, this really accurately
Yeah.
captures. No,
This
it
is
just
not a case study for mental illness acting.
This is just-
it's a very silly movie.
yes, this is just getting the job moving along and everything else, to say the least. So the next actor I would bring up and everything is Melanie Kinnaman, who plays Pam, who's kind of the lead gal of the institution because she works with
counselor kind of gal.
yeah, just sort of like is the one that kind of helps run things, keep things in line as she works with the doctor and everything else. And overall, I would say she's given nothing. She's just a nice, pretty face.
Cares
And
about the campers.
yeah, like her script, I'm sure, was fucking written on a sticky note and everything else.
Yeah.
And, normally that doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me too much with this franchise if a character is one note.
Mhm.
I think it just also very much depends on the overall performance they're able to do because, again, there's been lots of characters that I've enjoyed.
Mhm.
They had nothing to them, but they just were spunky or they had something particular.
They brought enough character to the role that even if they don't have a lot of lines or whatever, you're like, okay, yeah, I like this person.
Yeah, but overall, I would still say like she was perfectly serviceable and everything else like
Yeah.
that. So there's like,
I like Pam.
yes, exactly. I liked Pam just fine. There was definitely one moment later on in the film that I was just like, oh man, okay. Here we fucking go, just doing that. But aside from that, I felt like, again, she did a serviceable job, does the job fine, everything else. But one thing I do have to mention whenever it comes to leading actor is Reckless Reggie,
Oh,
played
Reggie.
by Shavar Ross. And that was kind of interesting, again, to bring a kid back into the franchise. Because he's the second kid to be shown up in the Friday the 13th franchise, with Corey Feldman kind of being the first and everything.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was definitely an interesting choice. But they definitely had him being there as sort of extra comedic relief and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, I was like, this fucking kid just being a little shit and everything else like that. But as I've watched it or whatever, I'm like, he's a fine addition. He's fine. And I think he helps kind of further bring the plot along and everything. He's definitely one that's helping progress the plot and kind of show more of the characters, like especially his interaction with Tommy and just trying to bring out some more of that stuff. So I've grown to appreciate him and everything else like that. Fortunately, there's not too many lines that have aged horribly or whatever, kind of like, a lot of times they try to make kids like super funny by giving them cringe lines or whatever, where you're like, oh God, or whatever. But I felt like overall he was kind of a good addition, I would argue,
I would say so, especially given the character of like being a rambunctious kid. I mean, his nickname is Reggie the Reckless, and so you could easily make that a really annoying character. But he was cool. I never minded when Reggie was on screen. I think his introduction was kind of annoying, but then other than that, like, he was cool.
Yes, yeah, I definitely would say that I've warmed up to Reggie over watching it multiple times. It's just the fact that I was like, man, I don't want to spoil too much of nothing, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, okay, I could kind of see where this character's going or whatever, where I'm used to kind of like, okay, here's the campers fight or whatever. Right. But I will give credit where credit's due. I think Reggie helps elevate this film to where it would be otherwise and everything. So yeah, and whenever it comes to other individuals, again, this is where it starts to kind of tamper down a little bit there, to say the least, because you have so many freaking campers,
There's
dude.
a bunch. We can fly through a few, right? We got Violet, the girl who just listens to music all the time.
I liked her vibes. I liked
Yeah.
her style, her hair, even though there's nothing to her character. She doesn't need one because it's just like, yep, she's like the alternative chick listening to like rock music and everything.
Right.
Which I was like, that's a perfectly fine addition and everything else.
We got Robin, played by Juliet Cummings. She was just like, I don't know, a girl in a bathrobe that watched the movie. I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know if she had a lot
there
of
was
character.
genuinely nothing to her at all whatsoever besides just being another body, which sucks. But
Mhm.
again, I don't blame the actress. It's just the writing. Like, literally, they're given nothing to work with at all.
There's Victor, who cuts wood in the beginning.
Dude, yes. Freaking Victor.
He's got some anger
I
issues.
won't say nothing, but you can just tell he's just pissed 24/7.
Yep.
That's all his character is. It's just being the angriest motherfucker there is.
Yep. We got Matthew, who was a guy. I don't know who Matthew was. Was he the counselor? Who was this guy? Played by Richard Young, Matthew Letter. No, Matt was a camper, wasn't he?
Fuck, you're telling me, dude.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Then we had Jake, who was like a little more on the spectrum of a camper. He's the one
Yes.
that tries to get with Robin, right?
Yes, he
Yeah,
does. Like, there's nothing too much. Oh, thank goodness this this summary.
Oh, you got a
like
list.
it,
Great.
it made it perfect there. So yeah, going down the list and everything else. Yeah, we have, Violet, the alternative goth chick, or as this perfectly description is, ill-tempered goth chick.
Okay, great.
And I'm just like, you know what? That's perfect and
Fine.
everything else.
Yeah.
And then redhead Robin.
Sure.
That's it. That's all they give her.
That is really basically her character.
That's all they do. And then shy, stuttering Jake.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right on the money and everything else like that. A guy named Vic, played by Mark Venturini, who has severe anger problems.
Yeah, that's the woodcutting guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, to give credit, Tiffany Helm plays Vi or Violet, the full name. Juliet Cummings plays Robin. Jerry Pavlon plays Jake. Dr. Matthew Letter is like the doctor that works with Pam and everything, which I
Gotcha.
thought he was. He's literally just, I'm here as the head, and that's it.
Yeah, he's kind of forgettable, to be honest.
I'm doing that there. But we can't forget about your favorite camper that you're just like, oh boy.
Oh?
And that's Joey, played by
Yeah.
Dominic Brescia.
You can always tell. I feel like in most Friday the 13th movies, there's one character that as soon as they walk on screen, you're like, I hate this guy. At least as I do, because it's the goofball comic relief quote unquote character that's just somebody being really fucking annoying. That's Joey. His character trait is that he annoys everybody and has a lot of chocolate in his pockets.
Yes, definitely. Super annoying to say the least, and was definitely like, what is this?
Yeah.
What like
come on, dude.
like and it's so bad too because I have no idea, like, I don't know what, like, this is going to be an interesting thing that I want to ask you about, but obviously these are like troubled teens and everything else like that, but they would range from seeming like, fairly level-headed, like nothing really wrong, to questioning like if they're on the spectrum of any sort. So that's where like it is. I'm like, do they have any idea going into this Joey character about what they were wanting to do? Because I feel like in the writer's room, we're like, we're just going to try to make him annoying and like the klutz, everything else like that.
Yeah, I feel like they were just like, well, one of them has to be fucking annoying, so
Yeah,
that's Joey.
It just makes me curious about it, but needless to say, definitely annoying, and there's definitely a lot of things we could say about stuff that happens with the group and everything, and spoilers to say the least. But would you rate him as your least favorite camper?
I do feel like the way they treat his character is appropriate for what his character is. So, in that respect, I give props to the Friday the 13th script writers. But I didn't think he needed to be in it at all.
That is fair. I
So
can't.
that's how I'd say. I can't. At least I will remember Joey. I think there's certain campers that I will probably forget in like a couple days.
Yes. And there are two other ones which I totally forgot. We forgot about Tina, played by Debbie Sue Voorhees.
Big tits.
Yes.
That's her character.
Yeah. Which is funny. Her last name is Voorhees. Find it ironic.
Yeah,
but
I wondered if there was some connection there, or if they were just like, "Hey, you have to be in this movie."
Yeah. Like you're hired.
Right.
And Eddie, the sex-craved lovers.
Yeah, they both. Yeah, they're the ones that are perverts and are always boinking. That's their characters.
Yeah, that's their whole character trait. There is nothing else to discuss about it. But yeah, it's kind of difficult trying to talk about more characters because obviously I don't want to spoil anything. But one character. Well, oh geez, we might as well
There's like
talk
a couple
about
more
it to
there.
say the least. But let's talk about the local crazed neighbors.
Yep.
You know,
Ethel,
played by Carol Locatel,
Mhm.
and her son Junior,
Yeah.
played by Ron Sloan. Aaron, what are your thoughts on these fine standing individuals?
If Junior was a camper, he'd be my least favorite.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was sort of a comic relief doofus character that, in a script that already had like 5 of those, that was just a little over the top, I think. But I don't know that I minded it in the context of this movie because so much of this movie was over the top. But yeah, Junior. Ethel was also over the top, but her character was a little more bearable because she was like a cranky old woman that's like kind of funny because I don't know. She was like, "I'm gonna kill all you fucking campers." And then she's always just like cutting up a turkey or something with a cleaver, and she's like, "I hate them." She was kind of funny to me, but yeah, Junior would just repeat back whatever Ethel said and was more annoying and was just he's worse Joey, but worse.
Yes. Joey Jr.
Right.
Maybe that's what the Junior...
Hey.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Overall, their characters, I felt like you know why they're there and
Yeah.
everything else, just to be further antagonistic. But yes,
Definitely
like
conflict
I was
creators.
very surprised with how far they made like Ethel be so over the top
Over the top.
antagonistic.
Yes.
And literally her doing like karate screams as she's cutting up a chicken and everything
she
else.
was pretty wacky.
Yeah, just very unhinged. I think that's the perfect way to describe this film. It's very unhinged at a
Yes.
lot of moments where you're like, what
Yes.
in God's names? I would probably argue this is the first time it's felt completely unhinged. Like there's been times where like, whoa, that was really goofy.
Yeah.
Or kind of silly or whatever, but like this unhinged is the perfect way I would describe it. So I also don't really care for Junior. There's especially one scene that happens later where I'm like, oh my god.
So when he's on his motorcycle.
Yes. I was like, good night. Unfortunately, this time it felt way shorter. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is fucking going on forever.
Wrap it up, pal.
Yeah, basically. But overall, fine
Mhm.
additions. Fine additions, I would say, to this film.
Yeah.
And it's so weird how they introduce some characters, because sometimes they literally have like a character just show up to their house.
Yeah. There's a lot of characters that are like introduced and then just like they don't get a lot of screen time.
Yeah, but like they just make it's like weird. It's like someone says like, "Hey, can I get some food?" And it's like, "You could clean the shit out of the chicken coop and I'll
Yeah.
feed you." He's like, "Okay."
Just a wandering
Yeah, he's just
farmhand.
literally wandering guy named Raymond
Yeah.
and everything else, and it's just like, what in
And
God's
then there's
name?
like some fucking greasers, and there's like somebody's brother that lives in a van, and then there's like nurses, and there's
Yeah.
like 4 different cops, and the mayor shows up. There's a million characters in this movie.
Yeah, they genuinely upped the ante and everything else, and obviously we could talk about certain incidents with them, but all of these characters are just unhinged.
Yeah.
Even the ones that only appear one time, like whether it's kind of seeing that person that works with the mental institution that helped bring Tommy up to the facility, seeing him later,
one
his
of the
girlfriend,
paramedics, yeah.
or greasers. But I will say that I did like Damon, played by Miguel A. Nuez junior and everything, Reggie's brother.
Yeah.
I felt like, again, he had some unhinged shit happen
For
as
sure.
well on his side. But like, he's one of the things that I always take away from this film. Like, I'll remember this character from this specific entry and everything.
Great
just because,
style.
yes, his great style, just overall, like, good. It's a good moment, whereas I feel like Ethel and her son are like the moments where it's like, yeah, there's something all right.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
they're from this film.
They definitely seem like they're trying a lot harder to bring personality to their role, and you can feel the effort. Versus Damon just like has personality.
Yeah.
He's not on screen for a whole lot of time, but like, man, he's got that Michael Jackson bad era look.
Yes, he does, with like the perfect hair, the
The
earrings,
leather
and
jacket.
yes,
Mhm.
all that was screaming, bad,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. So, oh lordy, yeah, it's something else. And like I said, we'll probably talk more about a lot of the incidents that occur between those characters. But there's a lot of characters, and they have about a Dixie Cup level of depth and everything else. With
I thought some of the characters had were well characterized for how little screen time they were, but others were just like, just wacky.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I definitely would agree with that sentiment and everything else, Aaron. So yeah, you got me there. So one thing to talk about, I guess, without spoiling too much. Spoiler alert, there is someone going around killing a lot of people in this film.
True.
What did you think about the kills overall?
I thought they declined in quality over time, but
Yeah.
there was certainly some creative stuff in parts. I think the pacing of the kills was actually really good, but there were definitely a lot that were just like, chop. That's it.
Yes, yeah. I felt like it's almost like the same problem that you had with 2, where
Yeah.
basically Jason's going around killing people with a pickaxe, and that's mostly it. Like,
Right.
they tried to work every aspect of the pickaxe, but by that point you're just like, another pickaxe kill.
Right.
And that was something I was kind of disappointed in, because I always loved how creative, even from the beginning, they were with the kills and everything else like that. This one, I just definitely felt like, okay, it's another machete kill
Right.
and everything, which isn't bad. I mean, obviously that's his main tool he uses, but it was kind of like, okay. And even if he did something creative or whatever, usually it was pretty mundane in comparison to stuff like...
Even some of the kills that were like on the more creative side in this movie were kills that they had done in previous movies in this franchise.
Yeah, in all honesty, I can't... There's only one kill I can think of that's will ever forever stick out to me, but it's not what you're thinking it is.
Oh.
Yeah, like, at the very least, like, well, maybe it is for you, but like, if you were to expect somebody like, okay, there's a kill in Friday the 13th part 5, I remember.
Yeah.
If you tell a person on the street that hasn't seen it, they can kind of visualize their own thing.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Oh,
And everything. So that's
My
all
answer
I'll
would be
say.
The shitter kill.
Yeah. I can tell you right now, no.
It's not that one.
No, it's not. It's not.
That's the one that comes to mind where I'm like, what are the creative kills in the movie? I was like, that one was kind of funny.
Yeah, I would say probably, I mean, thinking on an actual level of creativity, that one probably was sadly the most creative.
Yeah,
Which
and it's not even that inventive. But...
it's really not and everything. So I think that's one of the things that does kind of talk away a few points, to say the least, and everything, is just overall the kills.
There was
Definitely.
there was a ridiculous one involving a tree and like a leather band.
That one was also one of the few ones that I'm like, okay, that's pretty creative. I
It
like
was
that, but
creative,
it was
but
very situational.
And it also didn't make a lot of sense.
No,
But I
it
guess we can
didn't.
dive into that later.
Yeah, we'll dive into that later and everything else. Man, aside from that, I did want to ask, what did you think about the overall mystery of, is Jason Voorhees back? Is it someone pretending to be him? Is this like a delusion or something?
I actually thought they did a good job of setting up a cast of characters that it could be. I don't know how I feel about the payoff. We can talk about
There's a lot to talk about with the
that.
payoff and everything.
How it ends
Yeah.
and what the reveal ultimately is. But I think, for whenever you're actually experiencing the movie for the first time and you don't know who it is, I think the good like 3/4 of the movie is like genuinely like, okay, it could be this person, it could be this person, it could be these people, you know. So there's I thought they did a good job of like keeping that going. Although there was one central character that I was like, it's probably this person, and then it didn't end up being that person.
Yeah.
But you know, I actually thought that gave it an element to keep it interesting throughout most of the movie, at least.
Yeah, I will say this, first time I watched it, didn't expect the reveal of the mystery.
Yeah, I didn't expect who it ended up being.
Watching it as many times as I had, the clues that they give or whatever on what's happening are painfully sticking out again, which it might be just because I know what to look for, so looking at it, it sticks out way worse than what it did previously, because previously there's no like really big concrete like okay, we found this or whatever. But yeah, the payoff, I guess, is something that will be thoroughly discussed in spoilers and everything else like that. Man, aside from that, one thing I did miss about this film, which again, it was very similar to one, where, because in spoiler alerts, the first film, it's not Jason killing people, it's his mother, you know, that is just really just sort of like the hand that you see or whatever, or like a close-up of the body, but never really like the full Jason gear and everything else. I was sorely missing sort of the overall Jason presence and everything else. Feeling that, I did appreciate the little illusions Tommy had of seeing Jason and everything, and in his mind he's like, whoa, like doing that. But aside from that, it was definitely like I kind of miss it, because at the very least in the first one, I felt like the kills were so distinct, so defined and everything else like that, that it's just way more memorable than this one just being like, oh, kill, kill. Whereas at least in the previous installments, you saw like Jason just going for the kill, and at least kind of was like, yeah, get him, Jason, or whatever. So that was one thing I did kind of miss with this film overall, is it kind of stepping back from being able to fully see the person, which I understand why, so it's not even a heavy criticism, it's just like I kind of miss that. But yeah, music's good as always. Henry Manfredini always kills it. I always appreciate the cinematography of the Friday the 13th franchise, because again, I just love woods, nature, looks good and everything else like that. So that's just that kind of quick things to go along there. But anything else you want to talk about before spoilers?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the rating you would give Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
A New Beginning.
A New Beginning.
Boy howdy, I kind of wanted to rate this one a little higher, but as the movie went on, it started to teeter off for me. I'll go ahead and give it to you straight, boss. This is like a 6 out of 10 for me.
Ooh,
it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I can't give it, like, maybe my enjoyment level might be a little higher than a 6 out of 10, but like rating it critically, I mean, I'm counting this as a campy, funny comedy horror.
Yes.
Because I think it's probably the attitude that you want to be at going into this film. Otherwise, it's going to be unpalatable. Because it is wacky. But I think the moment that it became like super, like, this is a funny movie to me, was whenever the cops are investigating like one of the first kills, and one of the cops is monologuing to himself. And there's a cop in the background that's like, you talking to me, boss?
Oh my gosh.
He's like, what? No. And there's just like a I don't know. And it's like, it's the moments where it's not just like wacky Ethel, like, trying to do comedy, but it's like the quiet, like, little acknowledgments of how ridiculous some of this stuff is, that makes the movie like self-aware. And whenever we talk about movies that are like taking themselves too seriously, or like, you know, this movie, I think Friday the 13th generally, but especially this installment, does a good job of not taking itself seriously whenever it shouldn't be taken seriously, because this is a wacky movie and it knows it. It's not a wacky movie and they're trying to make it real dramatic for you or anything. So I really appreciated that. Yeah. All in all, it's like a 6 out of 10. If you're looking for like quality acting, genuine scares, good chase and a satisfying mystery, I wouldn't watch this movie. But if you're looking for a funny time slasher flick, people dying, funny characters that are, maybe don't have a whole lot of depth, but are, the way they're written are at least memorable billboards of characters, cutouts of something. I think this is it. Yeah, I mean, it was funny throughout. I say throughout. It was funny for the first 2/3, and then it kind of sets up what you can imagine the rest of the franchise is. But yeah. Overall, it was an enjoyable romp, and I thought the pacing for most of the movie was actually really stellar. So yeah, 6 out of 10 for me.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It's funny, like, again, this time round, I probably would say is the time I probably have enjoyed the film the most. And I think what you said during your overall rating of the numbers and everything else like that was accurate in the fact that you have to give into the madness.
Yeah.
Like, you just give into the madness and you're just like, okay, this is happening. This is good. Because if you try to reject the madness, you will just be for a miserable time. You're just like, okay, good Lord. Like, what is this? Because there's, it's rough if you try to deny the madness. Yeah. If you just give in, you'll just have a much better time and everything else like that. And so I found myself just, again, like, obviously it helps to have people like enjoying the film, because if you're not laughing and you're by yourself, it just affects the experience overall. But if you have like, a group of friends or whatever, just laughing at how ridiculous over the top it is and everything else like that, it heightens the enjoyment immeasurably. And I give a lot of credit for what they tried to do and everything. Like I said, just, again, trying to have Tommy like truly traumatized, because really Tommy doesn't take too much part of the action. If he does, he catches up in leagues with, again, his sort of like, street fighting combat and everything else he has. But a lot of times it's just him just struggling overall, just kind of with the trauma he had from having Jason, kill his, all the people he knew and everything else like that. So I give a lot of kudos, but I still cannot forgive some of the decisions they made. Now, the question is, like, this is not my least favorite, but genuinely, having watched this film, the lowest on the franchise I have had so far, I believe, is part 2, where I still rated it a 5 and everything else like that. I'm genuinely teetering on whether to move part 2 down further to like a 4.5, because I was just sitting there and I was thinking about some stuff about 4, good Lord. I was thinking about some things about the second installment that I'm like, man, that's really stupid, and as much as I love my boy in the wheelchair and everything else like that, that can only hold up so much. But I don't know, like, I guess it just always fluctuates. If I had to rate this one, it's going to be pretty dadgum close to the second one, but the question is whether it rates higher or not. For the time being, I'm just going to rate it a 5 as well and everything else like that. Whether it teeters down to 4.5 either film, I just feel comfortable at a 5, where I'm like, you know what? There's some things I really enjoy about this film, and even though there are some creative decisions that I'm like, this is really stupid and dumb and awful, there's a lot of stuff that I also merit. And again, I think if the film wasn't as over the top, ridiculous, and unhinged as it is, it would severely tank the film. It would tank it immeasurably. So I think definitely having those over the top moments help it out. But yes, for the sake of trying to rate which one I liked better, I was thinking initially 2, but then I flipped to 5. I don't know. Again, it's tough, and might be something I have to ruminate about. I don't know. Maybe 2's above 5. I don't know. Like I said, they're basically neck and neck. They're not bottom tier. I can guarantee you that, because there's one film that will always, like, I would be surprised if I change my mind about this film, that will forever be the bottom bedrock and everything. So these two, definitely not this one is not my favorite entry in the franchise, but I do appreciate a lot about it. And watching it around this time, even like ridiculously enough, there were some moments where I was just like, man, that's a good shot. You know, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like a shot of the woods and a woman being naked there. But I was like, that's well shot. They know exactly what they're doing whenever it comes to our, given what the audiences want or whatever. Yeah, overall, jury's still out, but 2 and 5 are just basically going to be nestled together for me, and everything might depend on my mood which one is above or below. I'm doing the thing where I can't make up my freaking mind about which one's which. I'm sure if we ever did a definitive ranking of all the films, I would decide, because before I used to put 5 below 2, but ruminating more about it and being aware of more points as maybe like, okay, you get a little more credence. 5 I think it's just the twist of the end and everything that kind of pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
No. So, yes, if you don't want to be spoiled about part 5, get the hell out. Otherwise, stick around, because Aaron, let's talk about the first spoiler you want to tackle.
Woo! Let's talk about that opening sequence that was fucking ridiculous.
Yes, the dream sequence.
Yes. There's a few times where they do dreams and they don't tell you it's a dream, and this is the first time, and it's just, kid Tommy watching 2 grave robbers rob a comically decorated grave of Jason Voorhees. He awakens, he's covered in worms that are not really digging into his clothes, but are just worms that somebody poured out of a bucket on top of him. And he just kind of does a quick couple stabby stabs and then stands over Tommy while his mouth is agape for like 3 minutes straight.
Oh, God.
Just like Home Alone face, but without the hands on the face. I was like, what are we watching? And then it makes sense when he wakes up in the van and it's like the mental health thing or whatever. But yeah, I think that set the tone for like, I was like, this is kind of ridiculous, but I didn't realize how funny it was going to be yet. So I was just like, man, this is going to be a bad movie, huh?
Yeah.
But it turned out to be a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Which is good. It is funny because dream sequences in Friday the 13th have typically happened at the end of the film, because at the first one you have little baby Jason grabbing Alice, which again, I would say that moment, like, even though the fact it was a dream or whatever, not the way it ended, like, I'm kind of like about, but at least cinematography wise, setup wise, and everything, it's like
it's kind
fucking
of iconic.
perfection and everything. And then in 3, oh no, God. And then in 2, they have the whole, whether it's a dream or not, of Jason grabbing the woman through the window and everything else like that. So that was something else. Then 3 just tries to copy what the first one did, but instead it's Miss Voorhees grabbing that, which I thought that was fucking stupid.
It was dumb.
As much as I love part 3. So this one, starting out with a dream, is kind of refreshing.
Yeah, well, it also ends with one, kind of. Not at the very end.
Oh, fucking shit. Friday the 13th, come on! Oh my gosh, I just was reminded of that. But I don't know, I like the idea of the dream sequence. I just felt like it was just shot terribly.
Awfully, yes.
Yeah, and just like the grave is so silly with like rocks lining it, a perfect little cartoon mound with a fence post that has Jason Voorhees written on there, and then guys digging it up just cause. And again, Corey Feldman, who did a pretty good job in part 4, was literally just here for a paycheck, literally just like, doing that. And as like cool as it is seeing Jason rise from the grave or whatever, overall it's just, it felt like it was super long, where I was like, okay, you get it, move on. So that was something.
Right. It does kind of make like more sense, like, once you realize it's a dream sequence and not literally how Jason comes back, because it's like, okay, well, it's kid brain, whatever. But I don't know. I did enjoy the setup, at least once we got to the camp, and they kind of right away have this how mute he is, an awkward setup. They come to like introduce what the camp is. Pretty quickly the cops come and are like, these kids are boinking and the neighbors hate you for it. Then the neighbors show up. I did feel like they did a good job of introducing the conflicts and the at least some of the major characters in the beginning. But
I would agree with that and everything. They do a pretty good job about setting up the cast of characters. And it's one of those things like, okay, you got all the characters, good, here's the first kill, and it's not from Jason.
Exactly, which I thought was
Yeah.
a cool wrench in it, because there was also no way that guy was going to continue to be the killer, although you could kind of wonder, like, maybe he got out somehow. But yeah, it was literally just annoying chocolate bar guy being annoying, and the guy that was cutting wood, old Victor, just couldn't stand it and chopped the fuck out of him.
Yeah, it's one of those things. That's the kill I remember the most about this film and everything, is the chocolate bar kill, because the first time I watched it, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, because you're not expecting, like, one of the inhabitants, even though he's angry, to kill.
I think that was the first big laugh I had, whenever he just turns around and cuts him up. Because it's like, yeah, oh shit, like, that's what I wanted to happen, but I didn't think the movie was going to do it, but then they did it. I was like, okay, that's when I was like, this is unhinged. This is going to be an unhinged fucking movie.
Well, and they try to, like, really establish a point that Joey is annoying with, like, him talking about the chocolate bars, and again, like, getting his chocolate hands all over the sheets.
Clean laundry.
And doing that, and then just being like, I got a second chocolate bar you can have, Vic. And Vic's like, fuck this!
Yeah.
You know, like,
the whole time, Victor's just like, go away.
he's just the angriest motherfucker ever and everything else. And then he's like, oh, fine. And he's like, and he just axes him to death and everything else like that. Which, you gotta love the paramedics that show up, because one's obviously, like, recoiling because I'm just gonna get this out of the fucking way.
It's his dad.
Yes, it's his dad and everything, and the killer of the film.
Yeah.
So
Which makes no sense. to me.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to rewatch it at some point and pick up on these hints that you were talking about. But I did not piece together that this paramedic. Even whenever the mask came off at the end, I was like, "Who's that?"
yeah. No, first time, no idea.
Yeah.
The clues did not stick out. But afterwards, looking at it, which I'll talk about it, they were just like, I wouldn't say painfully obvious, but it's like, man, this is like their attempt at a hint or whatever. But whenever, like, you see him, like, look traumatized and recoil away, not the fact that it's a chopped up body, which I love the other paramedic who's like, pussies.
Right.
You know, doing that, it's just like that sort of unhinged.
All right, time to get your hands dirty, John, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the guy's name was.
Yeah, going into that and everything else. So yeah, which obviously at that point you don't know till the end of the film that basically the paramedic Roy Burns, played by Dick Wiend, is the killer. There's like no indication. He just thinks it's a horrified body and everything else like that. And of course, oh my gosh. And so then once that's done, we get a flash over towards two greasers, Vinny and Pete, that are trying to fix a car. Has nothing to do with the story.
No.
Never seen it before in the life.
And
it's just
you
like a
never
little
see him after this.
cutaway and everything else, which they're also just over the top and everything. Like one's just being an asshole, like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I gotta fucking fix this.
And he's like, wait, you can't fix anything. He's like, you're the one that messed this up. And he's like, yeah. And I love that he goes and takes his shit in the woods and doesn't bring anything to wipe his ass. He just comes back with a poopy butt.
Yeah. Yeah. And you gotta love how Vinny is killed with a road flare sticking in his mouth going...
Yeah, that one was both ridiculous and creative. I thought the kills were going to be more on track with... Because most of the kills going forward at this point are like pretty like, yeah, I've never seen him shove a road flare in somebody's mouth.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would kill somebody, but I guess he did it, you know.
Yeah, and this is like going to be like one problem that I bring up. I do feel like whenever it came to the overall gore, I did feel like they did a lot of cutaways and everything else just to avoid that X rating and everything. So that was always kind of disappointing. Not that I'm a gore hound by any means of the word, but it's just like, okay.
That makes sense. I never think about avoiding X rating because I was like, yeah, this movie's solidly R, because the first scene Ethel shows up in, she's like, fuck this and fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah.
Doing that, but like one of the things that did happen is like whenever Pete's in the car sitting there, he's like, hey, come on, Vinny, we gotta get this fixed or whatever. And like they have his throat slit because I'm just going to refer to Jason as Jason, even though it's not Jason.
Right.
Just having the machete like go across the throat, but whenever it starts to go there, it zooms in close to his face, away from the throat, and then whenever it cuts out, you see like really just kind of very shit ass job to show that a throat slit, like red marker across the throat, and then falls over, which again, I know they're doing that just to avoid getting a higher rating and everything else, which I don't know, again, I just always feel like okay. And so that was just like a random thing where it's just like, okay, just not expecting. Also, Pete's scatting and everything, like like that's the level of unhinged that we're dealing with and everything. Just him going,
but like I feel like you gotta, because he's already comically like a villain, where he's like, yeah, fuck you, fix my car, I'm gonna go poop in the woods and I'm gonna kill you. He's like, if I come back, it's not fixed, I'm gonna kill you. Like, like, okay. Like, I feel like you gotta just play it up to the max if you're gonna, if that's the script, you know what I mean? Like, and he's trying to start it the whole and it doesn't stop. The bit doesn't stop, which is I think what makes it funny.
Like they just overly commit to this joke. Like they thought like this is gold. This is gold. Keep rolling the film.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, just doing that. And so like even just like continuing forward and everything else, it's mostly just Tommy beating the shit out of Eddie, who scares him or whatever, because Eddie's antagonizing him, and just kind of, I'm sure they just did that to show that Tommy is absolutely jacked in the realm of fighting and everything.
Yes, he's jacked, he's ready to kick some ass, which I guess I would be too if my life's trauma that's ruined my whole life was that I killed a beefed up murder dude. Like, I guess I would also want to be in great shape and be ready to kick somebody's ass at a moment's notice if I was scared for my life. But yeah, I love that he like flips him through a table and then just starts beating the shit out of him on the ground in that breakfast scene.
Yeah, it's something else and everything. Like, again, I get the point of it, and it's so over the top that it ends up being funny.
Yeah.
Which I do love that they make, even before he, like, basically breaks Eddie through a table and everything else, that they're giving Vi shit about, like, setting extra plates for, like, Vic and Joey who are dead or whatever, which I'm like, I just feel like that's just a weird point of contention. Like, you fucking stupid, they're dead, they're not coming back or whatever. I'm like, that's a weird thing to get fucking upset about, but sure.
But they're all mentally ill, so see, it checks out in my
there you
brain.
go, never mind.
Because the guy who said it was the guy that also tries to hook up with Robin later. And
yes.
Like, I want to make love to you. And she just starts laughing at him. And he's like, I didn't mean it.
I like the way you describe this much better than what actually happened. It's so much more enjoyable.
Because that's at the essence. That's so
no,
funny.
and like it's perfect. I loved your performance better than the actual performance that happened.
Just put a camp filter over whatever I say, and that's what happened.
No, yeah, it's
campy,
perfect.
yeah.
Speaking of camp, after that instance, we end up finding, geez Louise, Billy, who we saw earlier take Tommy to the establishment, who was already an interesting individual with a little screen time, but then comes up doing like 50 donuts in the
parking lot.
Yeah, parking lot to pick up his girlfriend, Lana. And
I love how he has that, like, he's doing like a Riz bit where he's like, hey, I'd like to take an order of Lana to go with nothing on it. You know?
Yeah.
But then, like, that would be normal horror movie dialogue. But where I love this movie is that, yeah, she just extends the bit, and then he's like tired of it.
Yeah, he's just like,
she's like, well, let me go ask, hey Lana, and she's like talking to herself, and he's just in the car like, this bitch. Like,
yeah. Oh my god. And she just continues a bit even inside the bathroom, like whenever she's like changing clothes, she's like, showtime. Yeah.
Flat, which I think are the first hits of the movie. Yeah, and I love that it's just like her talking to herself in a mirror, like, it's time to show off or something. It's like, all right, like,
yeah, just like, behold, or whatever.
The breasts.
Yeah. And it's just that level of unhinged. And of course, like, what does Eddie do in the meanwhile? Coke.
Right.
He just has Coke in the car.
Right. And he's like, all right, let me get ready to drive home. Do a few lines in the car.
Yeah, and then, Jason stops by to ask him a few questions. Get it? Because he got killed by an axe.
Yeah.
Anyways, and so then Lana steps out, and of course she's like, "Oh, Eddie, this isn't funny. Ooh, Coke."
Yeah, she finds this, like, the mirror spilled hastily of Coke on the ground. She's like, more for me.
And then she also is asked a question by Jason and everything else.
Yeah.
And so that's also one of the other cutaways, which as these murders are like going on and everything else, they have like the sheriff who's just like, what the hell's going on here or whatever. And the person that says like, were you talking to me? Was Roy the paramedic was the one who's like, oh, you talking to me?
Oh,
so that's
was
one of
it
the
Roy?
stupid jokes.
I
And he's like,
see.
no, I'm not talking to you, you fucking weirdo, go away.
I get it. And that's what
Yeah,
the hint,
so
because
that's
it was talking about Jason.
Yeah, and so like they did that, and like just sort of squinting his eyes, like they zoom in on him uncomfortably a lot, just to show like, hey, we're making this a fair shot for you to guess who
That's funny.
it is
I did
and
not
everything
pick up on
else
that.
like that. Which I don't know when you want to talk about the overall twist and how you feel about him
Whenever
being
you
the
want.
killer. It's weird to
Anytime.
talk about it in the midst of it. Well, fuck it. We're talking about it now. Let's just let's pump the brakes and everything else like that. How do you feel about the paramedic being the killer going around and everything?
I didn't love it. It felt a little cheap because I feel like what they were trying to set up, at least in my mind, was like, okay, Tommy's probably the killer because he's traumatized and fucking the ghost of Jason's over him all the time and he's getting violent with all these other campers and he's ripped as fuck and he can beat the fuck out of these guys and he has a reason to have vengeance against these guys. So they're like trying to hint that Tommy might be him. But then they're also throwing you some red herrings of like Ethel might be it because she's always talking about wanting to kill these campers. Or maybe it was actually like, maybe they throw you a real wacky one and it was, the first guy that axed everybody that got out of jail. Or maybe it's the cop who's pissed off at the mayor that's down his back or some shit. I don't know. They throw you some hints here and there. But then, yeah, I just did not pick up on all that it was the paramedic. So it just felt a little cheap to me to be like, and actually it was him. And then they give you the explanation at the end where they were like, well, turns out it was his dad. And he was mad to see his boy murdered like that. And so he killed them all and blamed it on Jason to cover it up. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, when you explain it, I guess it makes sense. But the payoff initially was like, the mask comes off, and I'm like, who is that?
Yeah, and again, not to give credence to this film, but just to point out one of the other hints, as it's called, or whatever, is whenever they're wheeling out Joey's dead body, it's like, you got any relatives to call? It's like, nah, as far as I know, he's basically an orphan. His mom died during childbirth. Don't know whatever happened to the dad.
Yeah.
So that's like it, but it's such like a throwaway line that you could just dismiss and everything like that.
Right.
So I don't feel like, oh, clever. But that's one of the things that I hated about this film is the fact that Jason was not Jason, which
Right.
again, it's one of those things that I'm like, I would put it aside if I felt like it was a good twist, but I don't feel like it was.
It wasn't, and they still stuck with the Tommy being traumatized and becoming Jason bit anyways, which I assume he is Jason in the next movie. But I don't know.
Yeah, we'll fucking talk about that. But one thing I don't know if I give like credit to this film or anything else like that. I do like that you see two different versions of Jason. You see Jason, which it looks exactly like Jason from part 4. And then whenever it takes forever, it's like the end of the film where you finally get to see the full suit reveal of like the paramedic dressed up as Jason, which while I do think it was like on paper a good entrance, the execution of it I just felt like was overall sloppy of it and everything. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of like because as they explain towards the end of the film and everything about the killer, it's just like, he just was one of those things where he just was traumatized seeing the death of his son and decided to use the guise of Jason to kill everybody.
Right, and
it just feels
had
like
all these newspaper articles
like,
in his wallet or whatever.
just because you thought Jason would get away with it, because that's the whole idea they talk about is the fact that it's like whenever the sheriff's like, the only time I've ever seen kills like this is because of Jason, and the mayor's like, what the fuck are you talking about? We cremated Jason and everything.
Right.
And so it's like you're going to catch a live suspect or whatever. So there's this idea of like, oh, is it not Jason? But just overall, I didn't. I feel like Jason has like a presence whenever it comes to it, like that especially is prevalent in parts 3 and 4, where you're like, God damn, that is Jason motherfucking Voorhees.
He's a big beast.
Instead, it's just like, oh, it's like the Virgin versus Chad or whatever sort of comparison, but like genuinely, it was just like, this is a dumb twist. I don't like I get it, like why they went this route or whatever, because again, they didn't want Tommy to like be the killer initially, it feels like, or whatever, or work it out. But I just felt like it was kind of a lame twist overall. Like it works fine for the film, fine just being generous of a word and everything.
That's
but
where I'm at too.
I felt like it was overall just stupid. That's kind of where I'm at or whatever. So granted, at this point you're still trying to figure things out, so you don't figure out the twist till the very end, where they basically kill Jason, aka the paramedic, and everything once it's revealed. But yeah, just wanted to get that out of there. Not that I wasn't going to fucking dissect the fuck out of it, nor will I probably not continue to bitch about it once we get to that point. But overall, I'm just like, and it's not even an actor's fault or anything. Like, this has nothing to do with the actor. It has to do with the writing and everything else. Yeah. Although the actor, I don't feel like brought a lot, because I do feel like while it is like basically stuntman work to take a beating, I felt like there just needs to be an overall presence or whatever.
I felt like there were a few moments of aura where he had Jason aura, but most of it, he seemed like a weaker version.
Yeah,
I think there was when he like busts through the door and it's just like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, that's Jason. And then when he's like at the end when he's fighting off Pam with the chainsaw and he's just like parrying her,
and parrying every single time,
and he's like not phased at all. Like I was like, those are, but then like for a lot of the other like chase sequences and stuff, which there's not many in this movie, but whenever he is, it's just, it doesn't, I don't know, it's not that, doesn't bring that Jason energy.
No, it doesn't. Let's talk about teenagers having sex.
Yeah.
Woo! So we go like to pick up where we last left off after the cops are seeing all the carnage go on. Tina and Eddie are sneaking off to have sex, and
sneaky link.
Yes, and while they're having sex, the guy cleaning chicken shit out of the coop is just watching them.
Yeah.
And everything, and then he's killed.
I hate that because like, okay, so they do the killer's POV kind of thing, right? But so you're like, oh, Jason's probably watching them, but then you hear him like moaning, and
that was uncomfortable.
I hated that. He's like, oh,
that was very uncomfortable.
And I was like, oh, wait, who's watching? And then it was old Purper, who looks like a caveman, for the record. He looks like a caveman exhibit at the Smithsonian, just peeping on you in the bushes. But I was glad that he died shortly after that. But
it was just like so uninspired or whatever, because again, he's just stabbed in the stomach. Yep. Which again, there's another kill stabbed in the stomach. It's just, again, the kills are very uninspired. But I will say Eddie and Tina do get more unique kills and everything. I did, not that I really wanted to see it, but I did feel like Tina's kill was kind of lame or whatever.
With the clippers.
Yes, the clippers to her eyes, which you don't see. Not that I want to see it, but just again that they just do like a cutaway where she screams, and then you see a pair of hedges go down, snip, pull back. You see Eddie do a sick throw of a rock into a pond where he's like,
because he left to wash up, and then it cuts to him, just throwing a rock in a pond, and he's like, all right. And then he comes back and is like swinging a stick around, and he's like, woo.
Doing that. And so then he's like, oh, hey, babe, what's up? He's like, oh gosh, like eyes cut out, as he backs up perfectly into a tree,
reels into the
that
tree.
Jason happens to be behind, grabs the belt and squeezes his head like a melon and everything.
He like wraps it around his eyes, which I'm not sure what's up with this killer and eye related kills, because there's a lot of those. But he wraps it around his eyes and then like tightens it with like a rod until presumably his fucking eyes explode or some shit. I don't know. You don't really see it.
That you don't see the skull actually get crushed. Like you see like him bleeding or whatever, and then you see like the belt snap, which I guess is indicating like he's dead and everything else. And then it cuts later to Reggie wanting to see his older brother, which he asks his grandpa, who's also in this film as the cook and everything. Like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's nothing to his character. Not that he did bad or
Mostly
anything.
like the reason that Reggie's there, but doesn't serve much purpose otherwise.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, have a reason why there's like a little kid. Like I do love Reggie's like, oh, I'm not a crazy nut like you. I'm just here with my grandpa.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
he works here and everything. That him, Pam, and they get Tommy to tag along. Like, it might be good for Tommy to get out and get some fresh air or whatever as he's
Yeah.
sitting there traumatized.
Right.
And they go out and again, meeting Damon and his girlfriend Anita. Like, it just
eating enchiladas.
yeah. Oh yeah, you want an enchilada? Like,
How about a
dude,
taco or some
Yeah.
pizza?
yeah, like
It's
it was
sausage.
it was so stupid, but I loved it.
I did love it.
I fucking loved it.
They're
Like,
just
I was,
smoking weed in this van, eating a million different carb-related foods.
and he's just like a dude that just travels the world, parties, like the cool older brother and everything.
Mhm.
That's like his whole vibe.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Tommy is getting traumatized, staring at a sign and everything, envisioning Jason, and then Junior comes up and
On the
scares him.
motorcycle,
And
yeah.
yes,
People love scaring Tommy.
they love to screw with Tommy.
Especially when, Junior didn't even know who Tommy was when he scared him, and then was like, "Oh, what? You're one of them campers." After he sees the
Yeah,
car, and he's like, "My mom was gonna kill you."
he's just like antagonizing, and then afterwards, what ends up happening is Tommy absolutely like zero stocks this motherfucker. Just
and it was-
absolutely.
Every time Tommy beats someone's ass too, it's like pretty justified.
Yeah.
This one especially, like he just kept on just like yelling, spitting in his face after trying to scare him. If my mom was gonna kill all of y'all, I'd be like, yeah, I'd beat this kid's ass too.
Yeah, and then he just beats him relentlessly, does like kicks, throws, everything, like
Mhm.
just absolutely like
Just like dance moves on him, dude. He like fell down and kicked him with like a sock. Shit was crazy.
yeah, so like moments like that, it's like so over the top, but I'm like, it's also super funny just seeing Tommy just absolutely go to town, just
Mhm.
beating up on this individual and everything else. And of course, Junior runs away or whatever to cry to his mom.
Yeah.
And then
It was really annoying, but it was also funny as a concept that he's just driving his motorcycle around, up on the porch, around the house, yelling at his mom, "Mom, they hurt me!"
God, it was so goddamn annoying. Oh man, it's just the screaming. It felt like the first time I watched it was under him. Of like, "Mom, he's like, you keep crying, Junior, I'm making a stew. You know, doing that. It's just like unhinged. It basically reminded me almost of Texas Chainsaw Massacre levels of
yeah.
insanity, of just like them just screaming and everything.
Mhm.
Which Jason lops his head off, and man, it's just
Old drive-by lopping, just
Yeah.
pulls out the machete.
and then the next kill for Ethel is like the hand breaking through the glass to bonk her on the head as her head plops in the stew
Mhm.
and everything, and I'm just like, well, okay, that was pretty goddamn quick, but yeah, like just thinking about it gives me a goddamn migraine and everything, where I'm just like, good Lord Almighty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we can also just talk about the kills that happen later with Damon and Anita, where it's the funniest goddamn setup about the way
Ridiculous.
they set it up, because he's like, oh, I knew I should have eaten that enchilada, and he's just
Yeah.
running to the bathroom.
Just sprinting, holding his stomach.
And then the building starts shaking, and he starts freaking out because you're like, oh man, it's Jason. But no, it's Anita.
Messing
and
with
then,
him. Yeah.
messing with him or whatever. He's like, oh, cool down. And then they start singing to each other.
That's the word it got. Yeah, because at first, this film does that all the time, where it's like kind of ridiculous, and I'm like, this is stupid. But then it circles back to being funny because they're just singing at each other, like finishing the choruses for each other while he's like taking an enchilada shit.
But it's unfortunately cut off as it like goes quiet and the building shaking, and so he's like, okay, fine, I'm going to face you. Opens the door to see Anita dead, goes back, and then basically starts to get shish kebab by the little spear poking through the outhouse and everything, which of course it impales him and everything, which creatively it's like cool. how it played out and was choreographed sucked.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
It sucked
but,
immeasurably,
a
but
neat idea.
it was a neat idea on paper, just horribly executed. So that was unfortunately the end of Damon and everything.
Yeah.
Definitely wish he would have got a better send off.
Yeah, rest in peace, Damon.
Yeah, got that enchilada shit as you perfectly described it. And then, of course, with Pam having left the house under the control of what is it, Jake and everything.
Oh yeah.
Under control, because basically after Tommy beats the shit out of Junior, he runs away in the woods.
Yeah.
So that way they could continue the mystery of, oh, is it Tommy
Right,
being
exactly,
the one
yeah.
killing everybody because he is disappeared, is gone or whatever. Because at this point numbers are being whittled down and everything. But I felt like the house kills were definitely really like just losing a lot of steam whenever it came to it, because literally, no joke, I'm pretty sure like Jason just kills everybody the exact same way, just like machete to the face, machete to the gut, machete to the gut, like doing that to where, you know, Reggie ends up finding the bodies hiding in Tommy Jarvis's room to again be like, is it Tommy doing this?
Oh, Tommy Jarvis. Jarvis, kill 3 campers for me, please.
Yeah. Thank you, RDJ. Oh my god. And so then, understandably so, Pam is panicking and trying to get out, and then we get the full reveal of paramedic Jason popping through the door and exploding, and they're trying to recreate what they did perfectly in 4, busting through that door and making it explode. And while it is like, it was still fine, it just definitely felt like great value version of breaking through the door. Like, it got the job done or whatever, but it was just like,
It's just always funny to me whenever just you could open a door or kick it down or anything, but just the door explodes with like flexing chest walking through it, just like I'm here, bitch.
Yeah. And so then we end up getting like one of the biggest annoying tropes, which again like shows basically Pam and Reggie running away. Reggie gets like way far ahead and everything. So then you have like a beautiful blonde woman with like a white blouse running
through the
as
rain.
it's raining, and so you see like her skin,
Tits out.
and you see like her going like,
I gotta fall in the mud.
Like literally, this is like the horror trope and everything, which I don't criticize too much, because again, like I know this is like one of the things that defined this trope or whatever, but it was definitely like, okay, yeah, just watching through it, just getting so fucking tired of it as she wanders through and everything. I just feel like this trope has been done immeasurably better by other moments in the Friday the 13th series, as well as just films in general.
Yeah.
And of course, they're just going around just to confirm that the bodies are dead of the doctor and the chef and everything, which, you know, it's just her just literally running, screaming from Jason, and she
seeing a body and being like,
and then she goes back to the house, and then she starts panicking, and then one thing I bet you weren't fucking expecting, Eddie breaking out the goddamn bulldozer.
Oh yeah, and Reggie the Reckless.
I know, right? You weren't fucking expecting that, but it's okay, because the film showed Vic at the start of the film with it, just to prove there was a bulldozer there. Whenever Tommy pulls in, I fucking didn't either the first time I watched it. So whenever Reggie's popping out of the goddamn barn with the bulldozer, I'm like, the fuck is this shit?
Right. I bought it, but I did think the part was stupid where Jason just stood there and like waited for it.
Oh my god, that's so goddamn infuriating. Like, Jason, it's okay because he was blinded by the light, so there's no way he could have reacted. So fucking stupid. So like it's like it's well beyond this point that I would say the film is just really fucking stupid.
Yeah, it starts to go downhill a little bit.
And like again, it's just one of those things, like not even having like the ill-tempered goth chick, as this wiki describes it, it could say advised dancing. Which again,
she's just dancing in a room, and then, you know, can't hear the killer come in, of course, and then just gets slashed.
So even that can't save the last third. So after Jason gets bulldozed and they're checking the body, and again, I do give credit to Reggie's actor screaming, literally sounding like a girl, because he's like at that stage where he's going through puberty, but he still screams like a girl and everything, which is hysterical, mind you. I totally love that. But yeah, Then you have them running to the barn and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And you know something's up because you see like Reggie poking his head over. And as you see Jason going up to the closet or whatever, opening it up. And then boom, Pam with a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, what are we doing here?
Right.
And everything.
Until the chainsaw runs out of gas or whatever happens.
Yeah, and so then at that moment, it's revealed it's not Tommy Jarvis, that's fucking Jason Voorhees or whatever.
Nobody
But
fucks Jason Voorhees, actually.
That's on me. I only have me to blame for myself for this sentence, so I'm just going to proceed on. And understandably so, Tommy is frankly traumatized, thinking like, oh fuck, Jason's back and everything.
Yeah.
And understandably so, the paramedic goes up and is like, yeah, fuck you, and hits him in the chest. But fortunately, that knife that Tommy wielded once at the beginning of the film comes into play as he stabs him in the thigh, and they're able to swing up to the top level of the barn. And as Jason slowly makes his way up, thinking Tommy's dead, sees Reggie alone. But gosh darn it, there's a 2x4 right there protecting Reggie.
And you can't get past the
No way. Just gives
impossible
one
defense.
swack. Impossible as he gets swatted after by Pam. This is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
This is like where I struggle.
I
with
thought when
it.
she swung it was an axe, but it was like just the axe
It was
handle.
yes, it was just like the fucking handle or
She just kind
whatever.
of bonks him, and then he turns around and is like, "Okay, I'm gonna kill you then."
Yeah, and so then they see the convenient bed of spikes on the fucking ground of the
Right.
barn outside or whatever. And as the shit goes on, she like shoves him over. And as they go to look and see the body being impaled, oh no, Jason's not actually dead. He grabs Reggie's leg as he's being pulled down. And then that's whenever Tommy's up and he grabs the machete again and swings down on the hand. Even though it didn't even get cut off, it looked like it got more swat like that.
Spanked.
Yes,
Bad boy.
spank that.
You go down.
No. Do that, and then the body falls, and as he falls, the mask falls, which shows the mask in the rain puddle as it's raining. And then if you zoom over to the face, because if you notice, like, it's like, oh, it couldn't be the paramedic unless he shaved his head. No, he just has a mask of, like, a bald head covering
Oh, is
it.
that what happened? Okay.
Yeah, because, like, if you just fucking look at his fucking face and everything, it's like you see like his hair perfectly puffed through the little hole and everything. But yeah, see like right here, this picture.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just to show perfectly what it is. And so then it's cut to the hospital where like Pam's waiting there with Reggie, and the sheriff comes up to give the exposition about, well, in case you were like, who the fuck is that?
Like I was.
Yeah, like I was. And he's like, yeah, so yeah, as a paramedic, we found this on his person, the wallet, which was, it's
super good.
I'm not gonna fucking lie. Looking at it now, it's fucking ridiculous that Troy the paramedic has a fucking picture of himself in his own wallet, like handing out headshots as they show the reveal, like, oh, you see that? Here's his son Joey.
Right. He had a picture of his adult son Joey. How he got that, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and it was like an exact photo.
Right. Despite not wanting to have anything to do with his life, I guess. But
yeah, like, because I guess he didn't know where he was at, so it's like either he knew he was there, or it's just by coincidence he happened to be there. It's just fucking stupid, lazy writing and everything, just to kind of be like, hey, we need to bring Jason back, but not really.
Right.
And everything. How do we do it? We just have someone go crazy or whatever because he's obsessed with the Jason killings. And so he's like, it's the perfect guys. I'll dress up as Jason. And like, because at the very least, I feel like the Scream franchise, whenever it comes to other killers coming up, they've had way better fucking motifs and everything. Now granted, I know obviously the Scream franchise happened much later than this was 85, but I guess it's just for example or whatever. I just felt like there could have been just a better way of going about it, but it's whatever. It is what it is. And then whenever you see Pam going to visit Tommy's room or whatever, Tommy stabs her in the stomach with a machete, which was something, but
Except he didn't, because it was a dream.
it was a dream. And as he looks at the end of the bed, he sees Jason, like the real Jason, mind you, not phony paramedic Jason and everything, standing at the end of this bed, and he just stares at him until he fades away or whatever, which is like showing signs initially like, you know, he's faced his fear, it's gone or whatever. But with him ripping out that IV, you know something more heinous is going on as he pulls into the drawer and pulls out the mask that the phony paramedic was wearing. And as Pam goes in to open the door, she hears a window crash. And as she swings in to look and the door closes, you see Tommy wielding the mask, holding a knife, going in for the kill.
And then credits. Like, okay.
Oh, fucking K. That ending, like, pissed me off immeasurably the first time I watched it, where I was like, what the fuck is this?
I was like, I didn't like it, but at the same time, it gave me what I thought the movie was hitting for the whole time, which is that, like, the curse of Jason gets passed on to a new person or whatever.
Yeah, I just felt like it was dumb and everything, but I know they hinted at it at the end of part 4 anyways, with Corey Feldman looking ahead or whatever.
Yep.
But as the closing sucked, I do have to give credit to this film. The intro, as always, the title sequence always fucking slaps at Friday the 13th.
The mask swinging in and
it's they always do a great job with the intro text, so I do give credit for that. But yeah, because, like, I don't know. Like, I get what they're doing. They're doing, like, the classic horror thing, like, oh, you think it's over, but it's just continuing or whatever. But I just felt like this was really lame.
It was a bit. Yeah. It was shoehorned in a bit.
So, I don't know. Like I said, while I can appreciate what this film was trying to tackle, I felt like the execution wasn't the neatest, and whenever it comes to kills, they're a little uninspired. And while there is goofy enchilada moments, doing that, or candy bar moments, or stuff that can elevate the madness to humorous links and everything, I feel like there's too much stuff that pisses me off about this film as well. Whereas, like, the second one, I feel like there is a few stuff that pisses me off about it, but it's also plays safe towards, like, feeling like, okay, yeah, this feels like Friday the 13th, but I can understand where someone like you didn't like it as much and everything. Yeah, so
for me, there's just a bigger payoff whenever I know that they're in on how goofy this fucking shit comes off.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, so that's the new beginning of Friday the 13th. And everything. So, any other closing thoughts? Anything at all you want to talk about?
I'm ready for a new end to this episode.
All right.
But what are we watching next?
Oh, damn! Man, Mr. Cleanup in here with that segue. Woohoo! Yeah, so the next film we're going to be watching is released 15 years later in the magical year 2000.
Wow!
And this is a new franchise we have not watched a film for yet. It's made recent splashes by its latest film it's come out with. And needless to say, while you haven't seen these films, envision, and I don't know which entry this is, but this is like the definitive moment of the franchise. Anytime you've driven on the highway and you see a semi with a stack of logs. Oh, yes, you know it. Yeah, I figured it was... As soon as
you said the highway, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you're
like,
oh,
fucking
yeah.
Logs.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen the ads for the new one. That's literally a log truck that's like Final Destination.
Yes, I thought that was so clever and awful of them. But yes, I figured it with the newest entry being out, I felt like it was time to take a peek at this franchise. So, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary with Final Destination.
Fox only, no items.
Hiya! Oh shit!
I need to take you out.
Yeah, I'm gonna take you for a ride. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube, Castbox, or iTunes platforms to stay up to date when new episodes drop. To see what Aaron and I are up to, check out our respective Twitter accounts. For me, it is @ColeKirkVA, and for Aaron, it is @AnimalGameDev. Thank you all so much for listening to our podcast. We'll speak to you all again next time when we're Poppin the Scary.